take all the sponsorships you can get as long as you believe in the product. And don't ever try to sell somebody something they shouldn't have. Being a technician is probably the most humbling thing I've ever done. Anybody that has been an HVAC technician understands that we don't know everything about HVAC, no matter what. You cannot be an engineer until you have been a service technician.
The right person should have their own business. Most people should not.
If you are an HVAC business owner with a small business and you're rich, you're not doing it right. You're not paying your taxes correctly. You're not paying your overhead correctly, or you're taking out a bunch of loans. If you're a business owner, an HVAC business owner, and you're poor, you're not doing it right. And that's just it. End of story. You're not doing it right. You need to work on your marketing. You need to get a CRM that works better for you. You need to do something. Training your techs, fewer callbacks, whatever it might be.
Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the HVAC and Plumbing Hustle podcast. So today I've got Jennifer Manzo on. What's the name of your company, Jennifer?
Valerini Air Conditioning.
Valerini Air Conditioning. We're talking about that journey from service tech to business owner.
Yeah.
And, why'd you do it? The story of all that, and should you do it if you haven't done it yet and you're thinking about it as a service tech? So we're going to talk through all that and the most important and controversial topics that we can possibly come up with for you guys, because Jennifer knows how to podcast. She's been here before. I'm giving her permission to go no holds barred. Jennifer, could you give like a 1 or 2 minute background of just how you got into this industry and what you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband is at the time was an industrial installer of 20 years. So he was HVAC all the way from, age of 13 on. So when we got together, I was a teacher, and that's what I've always done my whole life. So I was bored and decided that I needed something else. So I was looking for vocational classes for my students, my homeschool students, and I found SkillCat. And on SkillCat, you can pretty much get your EPA, for free at the time, and it was just this crazy thing, and I'm like, no way is this real. So I did it, ended up loving it, and was like, hey, I all of a sudden have my EPA license. What am I going to do now? So I decided that HVAC was for me, that I was just going to jump in both feet, and I was going to, it wasn't going to be my husband's trade, it was going to be my trade, and that's what I did. That's how I got here.
So this idea of coming into your own company, why'd you do it? And what were some of the biggest obstacles that you faced as you started your own company?
Yeah. So I started off as a service tech. I was lucky enough to have a company that was willing to take me on as a woman with a ton of on-paper credentials, but no in the field experience other than being a helper here and there over that, 14 years that I was with my husband. Other than that, I had no physical experience whatsoever. So I was very lucky to get a company that would take me on in the first place. I spent a lot of time proving myself, and I spent a lot more time proving myself because I'm a woman. There were, I had counterparts that came in that were men that didn't have my credentials and that didn't learn as fast as me, but ended up moving up in the company a lot faster than I was able to. I actually never was able to leave that service tech one position. It just never happened for me. And one thing led to another. My boss and I got into it, and that was it. It was just all out in the open that because I was a woman, that wasn't going to be something that was offered to me. So I left. And at that point, it's like, do I possibly take this situation again over and over and over again at different companies? Or do I make sure this never happens to me again and, set my company up to be a place where women are accepted and are able to advance as quickly as men? So that was what I decided to do. My husband, decided, okay, I've been supporting our family this way for a long time. I know I can do it. So let's do it together. And we did.
I dig it. What are some of the things as you started that company that were really hard? Like, what are the hardest parts about starting a company?
So don't get it twisted. Everything about it was hard. I can't think of one easy thing. The hards are definitely easier to list. So mainly, I didn't have a ton of experience at that point, even in HVAC. So where now in my career, the technical part of it is probably the easiest. At that point, that was the hardest for me. I was still learning, very much learning, and I knew nothing about business. We had never owned our own business. I was a teacher. I just taught kids. That was all I ever did my whole life, over and over again. Didn't matter the kid, didn't matter what I was teaching. That was what I could do with my eyes closed. This was different. Obviously, HVAC is hard, period. It's hard for me now. But that was hard. The technical part of it was really hard to grasp. I guess the most hard part of it was the business aspect. I didn't know, jumping into this, that I was going to have to track all of my expenses, that I was going to have to learn profit and loss forms, that I was going to have a CRM, I didn't know any of that crazy stuff. Like that stuff
Do
didn't
we
exist.
really need a CRM? I mean,
yes.
it's just a
As
fancy
Tim knows, I don't
Rolodex,
show
am
off
I
the big
right?
things.
Come on, let's be real. There's no CRM sponsor for this show, so we can say whatever we
Not
want.
at all.
I just use
Um,
the Notes app on my phone.
yeah,
So
right. And that when I started, I literally was. I was using the Notes app and like calling Val back and forth. Like he would be like, "Oh, I was just at this customer and now they want us to do a full install, next week." And I'd be like, "Sure, great." After I've just scheduled 4 people for next week, Like,
yeah.
it was terrible. That was really hard. Another thing that was hard was I had to be the face of this thing. Val is very much a behind the scenes kind of guy, and I had to be the face of this thing. So walking in there at 5 foot nothing with tattoos and being a girl I was scared of that. And I live in Maine. I live in a very conservative state where women just
Mm.
don't do HVAC. It's not a thing here. So that was hard too.
Hmm. And I like different perspectives on this, and I've picked some people's brains a little bit. I'm scared too when they're not interested, because I'll talk to some women about this in HVAC, and they will play that part down, that that's a struggle for them, or that there's even a difference. I don't know why. I think it's probably just because they got through it, so everyone
Yeah.
else can, and kind of. So why do you think there's kind of a tendency to kind of play that down?
I do it myself all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been on women's panels and podcasts up the wazoo, and I always say that I don't like to dwell on it. I don't like
Mhm.
that to be part of my story. Until recently, I really have realized that it is part of my story, and it needs to be, because I'm not the only one. I have been probably one of the luckiest women in HVAC in the globe, really. I have probably been one of the luckiest to get the men on my side that I have, because,
Mm.
the biggest names in the HVAC industry are my supporters and my friends. That came from earning a lot of respect. It came from getting really, really smart about this trade really, really quickly. But they weren't always there. And I think because of them, and because I feel blessed to be where I'm at, that I downplay that hard part, because I just don't want it to be part of the story. But recently, with my coalition, I hear from women every single day, hundreds of women every week, about the struggles of being a woman in HVAC. And some of them are downright dangerous. So we have to talk about them. And I'm learning that now. So
Yeah, I think, like, as I've been doing a lot more in other home service niches, namely roofing. I talk about that a lot on the show,
yeah,
but one of the things is that as salespeople and people in people's homes, because dudes are creepy. I know because I am one. We sometimes are don't realize that we're being creepy. I don't know. I mean, not
yeah,
intentionally all the time, but sometimes very intentionally.
yep,
So there's a being in people's homes. It's just such an intimate thing.
yeah.
And so how do you deal, sorry, since we're going down this route, I'm just curious, how do you
I'm
deal
an
with
open book.
that odd tension that might come with somebody being weird, or inside somebody's home? I guess that's good to talk about, because then ultimately there's people that are scared to hire women because of that.
Yes. Yeah.
So
From
yeah,
an HR perspective, we're a ticking time bomb. It's a lot of
yeah.
fun. But for me personally, being the owner of the company helps for me. Many of my female counterparts don't have that. They don't have the option to say, you walk up to a door and the man's looking behind you going, when's the guy coming? Where's the guy? Um, Me, I get to say I own the company. You either take it or you leave it. You don't need to be my
Hmm.
customer. But a lot of women face adversity in that situation. So my advice to them would really be just to hold your ground. If somebody seems creepy, that's dangerous. I actually have been in this field a really long time, and with a whole lot of men. And for the most part, I think I've had 2 situations where it was actually creepy, where it made my skin crawl. Um, for the most part, my adversity that I face with customers is them not believing I can do my job correctly. Um, and also men are masculine beings. It's in their DNA, and they don't want to admit that they couldn't fix this steam boiler in their basement, but this little tiny girl with face tattoos could. I actually had one when I first started out. One guy actually said, I changed his gas valve for him, and he said, called my boss up and told him that he wasn't paying for it because he'd rather freeze to death than have this little girl fix his gas valve for him.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'll be real. That's crazy. Like, what area of the country are you in? Okay, I know it's probably everywhere, but what is it? Where?
Maine.
Okay, that's weird. I would have thought, well, whatever. That's nuts. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, and
That's
that is typically what the negative impact is of being in someone's home in residential HVAC, is that they just don't want me to fix it, or they want to stand around and hover the whole time and say, oh, I could have done this, but my back, or whatever.
Yeah.
Otherwise, creepy
funniest.
guys. I've had one scary creepy guy. I actually ended up having to call Val. I was actually locked into the house and didn't realize it. I told this story on Sales Tales. I won't tell it again, but if you guys want to hear it, go watch that. But yeah, I ended up having to call Val to basically be rescued, and I'm not a girl who needs to be rescued. I carry a pipe wrench. You know? So yeah.
Wild. Yeah, because I'm going to hang out with Mr. Fat Cheeto, Trent Parker this week.
I saw.
And Jason Walker, and we're doing some skits. And I'm trying to help him create a new character called Harry the Homeowner. And I'm trying to get the craziest shit that homeowners do. So I can include that. So if you have any, besides that one, that sucks. If you have any other ones, I'd love to recreate some dumb shit in a skit. So if you have any ideas, throw them over.
I absolutely have so many. I'll send you some after the show.
So we're creating that new, and I also feel like here's the deal, dude. Trent Parker, I'm gonna keep saying this on stuff. Trent Parker is cool as hell.
Yeah.
You guys are, your guys' podcast is cool as hell. I'm a little confused why people don't get a little bit more hardcore with sponsorships in this industry. I mean, frankly, I'm new and I already got sponsorships. I kind of like wonder why people don't sponsor him. I know that he's spicy. He's kind of like scary to like, there's people with tool companies and with product companies that like, it doesn't matter if it's a little spicy. I
personally have 18 sponsors, manufacturer sponsors.
Nice. That's awesome.
You won't see any of them on Misfit ever.
Yeah. Why is that?
The reason for that is because the feedback that we get about some shows that are out there is that people don't want to watch this show with, sponsors scrolling the screen and commercials happening in between, and they don't want to. What the general populace of HVAC technicians comes to us for is to get our opinion on things, right? Mm-hmm. So if they want to know what CRM should I use, for instance, and I tell them, they're expecting me to be 100% honest. And if they know that company has paid me, I'm less honest to them. However, I do have a sponsorship with a CRM, a very popular one. And because of that, I made them prove themselves to me. And that's kind of how sponsorships have to be dealt with when you're in that position, like your position, Tim. You're not going to go and sell something you don't believe in. So
what I've tried to do there, it's funny because this blew up on HVAC Facebook this past week, and this is probably going out in a few months, so it's not going to be, no one will know what I'm talking about. Perfect. But there was a post that blew up, was like kind of digging at that idea of financial partnership, or like they said the average person in HVAC doesn't know that a lot of times there's financial side to all this. So I'll be upfront. I've got sponsors. I will recommend them to you. I usually do. I partner with people that I think have a good name. And so I'm trying to partner with the people that, from what my understanding, have a very high quality product. And I want to recommend them. Not only, frankly, they do give me money, and I'm grateful for that. Big thumbs up, because there's a lot of work that goes into creating content and really being out there all the time.
People seeing it as selling out is actually a wrong ideal. So like Malco, for instance, I won the Malco Trade Pro of the Year last year. It's been an awesome award to have. And then this year they are releasing a new tool in September, and they reached out to me for a paid partnership. Now, I am not going to, I could get the same amount of money from any company for the same tool. 5 different companies make the same tool. I could take any one of those partnerships. I don't, because this company I believe in, because this company does stuff to give back to the technicians of our world, because this company's tools don't break in my hand. And if I'm going to sell something, I'm not going to sell something that did break in my hand, because that's my face on it, right? So people who look at it that way are actually super, super wrong. But if you do a job for somebody, and we're in service, come on, we're in service trade. Like, if you do a job for somebody, you get paid, and you get paid well. And that's the point. We aren't selling out for the product. We're selling our time for money, which is the goal of humanity.
Well, yeah. And everybody does. I was thinking about this, like the person talking about this past week, respectfully, because I kind of agree. And I was naive when I got into all this, and somebody gave me money for the first time for a sponsorship. I was like, is this even right? Is this weird? It felt weird. Yeah. But I'm like, I kind of like it.
But okay.
Yeah, all right.
You want to pay me $2,800 for 8 30-second videos, you can do that.
I will do that. But I realized, well, if you're a business owner, you have commissions for your people. Do they sell more a little bit sometimes because they get a commission?
It's an incentive.
Damn right they do.
Right?
Damn right they do. And we should all be proud of getting a little bit more money, and we are ultimately trying to create good relationships and good, but basically everyone's doing stuff for money. So that's my in summary, everyone's doing stuff for money. You're okay.
But
trying
also,
to be,
I do stuff that's not for money. I have 18 manufacturer sponsors, and out of those 18, 10 are paid. And almost all of the money goes back into my free coalition anyway. So it's like a catch-22 for me. But yeah, I just wish people would stop, looking at that as selling out in a way, and view it as, I'm doing a job for money, because that's what we do. But then also, I'm not going to put my face on something that I don't think you should use either,
That's a great point. No, I literally, like, the thing with mine is, like, they're actually really not that expensive for people.
Right.
They're $1,000. They're not that expensive for people, like a month. But the point is that, they're, but the reason I do that, in full transparency, like, I don't actually need that $1,000 a month. That sounds crazy, but like, I have a $5 million company. Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't. And honestly, the main reason I like to, and actually, you know what? I don't know if this is how you meant it, but I love the fact that if I'm not consistent with my podcast, they're going to get on me. And I'm pointing at the sponsors right there. I love that. Me too. And I do have some in trade that are $0. So there might be one down here that is in trade, but that's because I like the logo. I like them being on this podcast because they're a reflection of me. So I'm trying to, and that's the thing. And we'll wrap this up because I don't know if this is most interesting but more HVAC people out there that have audiences should have sponsors and partnerships. And I don't know why you don't. And I'm trying to get more for
there are a lot.
My
the
friends.
way I see it is, if you're an individual, take all the sponsorships you can get as long as you believe in the product, and don't ever try to sell somebody something they shouldn't have. But the reason that a show like Misfits doesn't is because it gets so hairy when there are two hosts. It gets super hairy. We don't, it's not clear and concise, and we don't know what we're doing. And then also we have differing opinions of things, and that's why people love Misfits of HVAC, is because we don't always agree with each other. So
and I will say this is, like, I like having competitors to my sponsors on. I like when somebody says something crazy that's maybe if they're not directly trashing them, but I like differing opinions. We have to invite, it's not an interesting thing.
It's not boring.
But if there's not differing opinions, and I think that's good. I think that's positive. Let's get back to from technician to business owner, because I think that's totally more relatable to some folks. If there's something that being a technician has helped in the way you're creating this business, what are you seeing so far in that?
A lot. Being a technician is probably the most humbling thing I've ever done. Anybody that has been an HVAC technician understands that we don't know everything about HVAC, no matter what. I own a tech support line. I own a coalition. I'm a chief trainer for, a huge trade school. And I own my own company, and I still don't know everything. I'm still wrong, probably 60% of the time. That has helped me in business quite a bit.
Many homes suffer from inefficient HVAC systems due to leaky ducts, leading to uneven room temps, lost airflow, and higher energy costs. AeroSeal's innovative sealant technology targets and repairs leaks, improving airflow and efficiency. Increase your customer satisfaction, increase sales, and offer a unique market advantage. Become a leader in HVAC efficiency. aeroseal.com.
Because with my sudden launch to stardom, as you can say, I could have easily become big-headed about my job, because I didn't, because this job humbles me every single day and makes me realize that I'm absolutely nothing any more than the next tech is. It keeps me focused on always making my business better. It always makes me focused on offering the best training that's available to my technicians. It makes it so that I never, ever, ever act like, I mean, I do know more than the homeowner in a technical sense, but as far as what the homeowner needs, I see some people who cannot allow the homeowner to make their own decisions. That becomes a problem, because then that homeowner doesn't want to go with your company anymore. So yeah, you might have this great, tough business stance where this is what you're going to get, or I don't need you, but that customer is going to leave because it is their system, it is their home, it is their comfort that, and their money that matters to them. So I guess I learned I'm still a small person, and because I have that to hold on to, because of the technical side, because I have been in the trenches, I've been in a -20 roof, I've been, in a million-degree attic. Because of that, I never get too big for my britches, so to speak. And that has helped me in business big time. My business is not a typical HVAC business. It is so tiny. We have, at this moment, 2 technicians. And we have a revolving door of other technicians that work for us for a while to train, and then they go to other companies, which we do because of the coalition that's attached to our company. So we don't have the revenue. We do have the revenue. We don't have the time to sustain, 100 employees or a fleet of trucks. So with all of our other projects and our other businesses that we run. So instead, we keep the HVAC business small and we run the training big time. And because I have been a service tech, I know how to train other service techs. So I'd say 60% of my business is that. And then I also own an engineering firm on top of that, which, you can't, every engineer in the world is going to tell me I'm wrong right now, but you cannot be an engineer until you have been a service technician. And I know that because I didn't even set foot in MIT until I had been a service technician for 2 years. So, yeah.
What advice would you give to other HVAC technicians considering the leap into business ownership?
So here's the advice. I get this question so much, so often, and it's the goal. It's the only goal that you should have if you're an HVAC. So if I have a technician working under me and I was considering keeping them on for any lengthy amount of time, I would do that in the hopes that he would outgrow me someday. And if you don't hope that your technicians outgrow you, you're not a very good business owner. Because if I can't teach you everything I know, then I'm a shitty teacher, period. So my advice for that service technician is, if you are at a company where you don't feel like that's the goal, if you don't think the company owner's goal is to train you to be the best technician you can possibly be, go to another company, because they are a dime a dozen. And I'm an owner, so telling you that, what I own is a dime a dozen, it's true. There's no reason to stay at a shitty company.
Can I contrast? I mean, like we were saying, these things aren't interesting if there's not differing opinions.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm a very controversial technician.
I'm going to throw out from my perspective that if people ask me about business ownership, and I literally, like, my number one piece of advice is don't.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that to my own
way.
employees. I'm not saying that to my own employees, like, respectfully.
Right.
There's a few of them. There's like 2 or 3 that I think should have their own business.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, like, this has been soul consuming. And like I said, like, there's probably a truth halfway between these. Like, the right person should have their own business. Most people should not.
Right. So I heard on the Service Business Mastery podcast that 10% of the population have minds like ours, that are able to problem solve and troubleshoot their own way through life in a way that they should own a business. 10% of the population. So if we have an HVAC company on every corner Not all those people should own businesses, right?
Sure.
So my advice is to know whether you're one of those people or not. If you're not leaving because your boss pissed you off, if you're not leaving for more money, if you're leaving to set up an actual legacy for yourself and your family in a way where only you could run it the way it needs to be run, and then you're willing someday to let that go and pass all of that down to somebody else, then you should own a business. If not, if you're leaving for more money, if you're leaving because somebody pissed you off and told you that, you sucked at HVAC, those are all not reasons to leave. So don't.
And I think one thing to note is there is ability to make small business, and like most people could make, a lot of people could make it. But like sometimes it's somebody that's coming to me and they're like making hundreds of thousands of dollars as a salesperson or something and think that it's going to be better on the other side. So I guess sometimes I hear that or whatever, and I'm like, God damn, I've had people making more than me say that they're like, well, I'm just probably in the next 5 years I'm gonna have my own thing. I'm like, dude, you are living the dream right now. Like,
you have no headaches and all the money.
I mean, like, there is certain job, like sales is a good job. Yep. Like, there's a lot of good jobs.
Technicians is a good job. Yeah. Being a service technician is a killer job. Here in Maine, we typically are making as an entry-level technician $30 an hour. And that's entry level. That's after 1 year of apprenticeship. So if you're an advanced technician, you're making $55, $65 an hour. And at that point, you don't have the headaches that I have. So if I'm paying you $65 an hour and I'm billing out at $125 for you, and then I have to pay the overhead and you don't, you're making more than I am off yourself.
So just realizing that there is a spot for, I don't know, I just wanted to be the other side on that like Elon Musk calls entrepreneurship like chewing on glass and staring into the abyss. And I have often thought about that quote and like thought he didn't go far enough. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm just,
Agreed.
And I don't know, like I have it very good and life is good, but I'm talking about like, I'm now about to be 8 years in.
Yep.
And like, I'm talking about those first 5 years. I think that there's a lot of that. And like some people get stuck in those first 5 years, meaning if you don't scale and if you don't like get other people, because I'll be real, I trained for a while, but my thing, and I know that's a different industry, but there's a lot of related pieces to any business.
Absolutely, especially in the trades. Yeah.
At a certain point, not all of us are called to teach, and like not all of us, not everyone feels comfortable with that. So a lot of business owners, like in my experience, I trained somebody for an entire year, my first person, and then at the end of that year, they said bye.
Yeah.
Just as soon as they got good.
That's absolutely the ticket you take. And it's 50% too. There is no like, you don't get 70% of good ones and 30% of bad ones. It's equal half. But let me say this, because I don't think you've even gone far enough.
Yeah.
If you are an HVAC business owner with a small business and you're rich, you're not doing it right. You're not paying your taxes correctly. You're not paying your overhead correctly, or you're taking out a bunch of loans. If you're a business owner, an HVAC business owner, and you're poor, you're not doing it right. And that's just it. End of story. You're not doing it right. You need to work on your marketing. You need to get a CRM that works better for you. You need to do something. Training your techs, fewer callbacks, whatever it might be. But if you own an HVAC business and you are either rich or poor, you are not doing it correctly. Every HVAC owner that's a good HVAC owner that I've ever met is somewhere right in the middle. Your company might be rich. You might have a $20 million company, but you personally are not the person that's benefiting from that yet. And that's how it should be in the first 5 years. I started with no money. I started my business with absolutely zero money. And I did it off of, credit at the supply house and having my customers pay for their materials up front. And I did it the hardest way you can possibly do it. And now even, another 8 years in, now I am able to live comfortably and my company will not shut down next week if we have a slow week, But just now, it has taken me till just now for that to be the case. Because for those first 5 years, I didn't know. I mean, a slow winter could have done me in easy.
Could you give like the first 3 steps you took when you started that business? Like, did you go out and get an LLC? Did you get a loan? Did you do what were 3 things you did right at the beginning, like specific things?
So the first thing that we did was decide we weren't going to LLC, which was a stupid idea. It was probably the dumbest idea I've ever had in my life. We made it a sole proprietorship under just Val's name. which then in turn made it so I actively didn't have a job legally. So don't do that. Bad idea. Always go in LLC, make sure that you can have employees and pay your workman's comp. Period. I didn't have any money, which is why I did it the way I did it. But if I knew then what I know now, that's the first step I took, was going and making a business, because you have to have a legal business in order to run a business. Second one was go to my town, because if you don't go get your $10 town business license, you can get shut down very, very easily. And the third thing that I did was reach out to every person that Val had ever helped outside of the company he worked at. Every single customer that ever called him in the middle of the night and said, hey, my heat's down, can you come help me out? And he was, out there at 2 a.m. and -20, fixing this guy's heat. We knew he was going to be a customer. And we knew there were people before that had told him to go out on his own and they would be his customers. So we reached out to them. And then the next thing I did was buy Canva Pro and start my own marketing campaign, my first marketing campaign ever. And it was horrible, and it was cringe, and it was terrible. You guys, hire someone to help you with your marketing if you don't know how. I got good at it over the course of years because I screwed up so many times so royally. Don't do that to yourself. Go get a good marketing person. There's plenty out there. Be careful, obviously, because there's a lot of scams out there too, but get somebody good to run your marketing. Don't, I actually run it for like 8 companies now in other states, and
Nice.
like everybody, I just wish I could give everybody a me at that point, because it's probably the most important thing.
Absolutely. I think stay scrappy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like the fact that you got that, like even if you didn't think you did that great at the beginning, like you got Canva, you tried, you pushed. Like some people think like word of mouth is enough, and yeah, it's a great start, and you should start there, right? Like everything you did on word of mouth, incredible. Do that, and see how you can increase word of mouth. Like it's almost like start at word of mouth, get really good at it, ask people. I had a lunch budget for a month when I started my business, and I just took everyone out for lunch and I said, please give me referrals. And I said, how can I refer you? Right? Like how can I refer you? And
that's the fourth thing we did. There's a group, and there's probably one, I would say, in every community. There's one called Main Contractor Connection. And this is all contractors that say, okay, look, I like you. You seem to do a good job at what you do. So I have an insulation business, and I'm going to refer your HVAC company to all my customers. And I then, in turn, am going to refer that insulation business to all my customers. That was the best word of mouth I ever got. But also, when guys from, the one-man van groups come to me and they're like, how do I do this? Like, I'm drowning. Help me. I always tell them, your community pages are first. Anywhere near you locally is your community pages are first. You're going to want real advertising there, though. No one is going to read your post when you just typed out, hey, I own a company up the road. I'd love to do your HVAC. Nobody's going to go for that. Talk to your friends, talk to people you've worked for, and talk to those other contractors and tell them to recommend you, and you'll recommend them back. That I don't pay for any other marketing other than my own social media marketing and the marketing that I do with my marketing guy, who's super, super small and just doesn't do much. But he makes it so I don't screw up. But that's all you need if you can do it right.
Yeah, totally. So all right, I've got another one for you. Can you share any success stories that you've had from the HVAC Chicks Coalition?
So Rilla allows you to listen to, it's an AI in your pocket, listens to the appointment. It's pretty crazy what it can do. It gives a script, gives everything they said, it breaks down some statistics for you.
Analyze talk ratio, interactivity, like how you and I are interacting back and forth, longest modeling, like all those things.
Honestly, this is the shit that I most believe in AI.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Enhancing the
You're
user
about to put
experience.
math and data around something that used to be my magic skill.
HVAC Coalition has been a giant success story. When I started out, as I said before, I didn't have a lot of support. I started this group. I didn't find what I was looking for in like the women in HVAC groups. And I didn't know why. I didn't really know why I didn't fit in. And I came to find out it was because they were women's groups. I don't fit in with women's groups because I really heavily enjoy my male counterparts. And I don't think that any group should be sexist in choosing who they help or who's able to be involved. And I think that's what was missing. It felt like exactly what I didn't want. It felt like these are only for women and these are only for men. So how do we work together ever? So I started HVAC Coalition and I said, we're going to do free training and I'm going to get donated materials from all the best names in HVAC. And I did. And now we teach 519 students every single month. for free, 100% for free. And it's all custom training. And then we have a very successful tech support line that every company and their brother is trying to buy right now, and we won't sell it because we're all volunteers and we love it being free. And then we have a mentor program where we have mentors like Ty Brannaman and Bill Spohn from True Tech Tools is one of our mentors, and we just have the greatest community of people ever. And it goes all the way from the students to the trainers to the people who donate the materials, and then to even manufacturer companies. We actually just landed one with the Service Titan HVAC Nationals. They're a sponsor of ours now. So it's cool how many different people and how many different parts of the spectrum all come in when it's a great cause like that. So as far as success stories, I do not have one student that's ever dropped out of HVACX Coalition. I don't have one out of 519. So what happens is they start at the very beginning or the very lowest point of their career, and then we're able to build them up to a point where they're confident and they're able to get back out there and they're able to make a career out of this, and then they stay with us forever. And there's never an end to the help we give. And it's not like we have a brochure of this is what we offer. We do have that, but at the same time, if somebody comes to one of us, any one of us, and says, can you help me with this? It's done. We've helped with sexual assault cases. We have lawyers in 22 states that help our victims pro bono if they've been hurt on a job site by a sexual assault or harassment or discrimination. It's just literally a globe of people coming together to do this awesome thing. So it in itself is such a success story. The fact that we've managed to keep it alive without ever making any money. We are not nonprofited yet, and we are not for profit. We have never made $1, and it's never taken $1 to run it. So that's the absolute beauty of it. Now we're going into nonprofiting because now we have to hire because it's gotten so big. We need to be able to pay people to work for us. So that's kind of our next step. But yeah, so success stories, I would say every single tech that's ever come through our doors. Absolutely, 100%.
And where can people check that out? I got a couple more questions here, but just because we just talked about that, where can people join?
Absolutely. You can go to hvhx.com. Michael Hausch of Hausch Home Energy Services pays for our website so that we can have that. There are forms on there you can fill out. You can either sign up to be a mentee, a mentor, or sign up for free training. Everything else, it's just really a landing page that we hold, but everything else is done within the HVACX Facebook group, or you can email me at jennifer@skillcatapp.com.
Awesome. Probably, just increasing the level of importance as we go on throughout this podcast on questions. The next question I have is glove or no glove?
So I'm going to go with no glove because I can't stand it. But also there's a time and a place, guys. There's a time and a place. Don't hurt yourselves out there.
Yeah, I see calluses and pretty ripped up, people, and it's a badge of honor, but it's also feels like it's related to the precision of having a glove is kind of annoying when you're trying to do something precise.
Yeah. So there's lots of times where I start with them and I just ditch them. I'm like, I can't stand this. Yeah. But also there are situations when you're dealing with refrigerant, when you're dealing with, not low loss fittings, if you're dealing with steam piping, you got to have gloves on, you're going to burn yourself. So, there's a time and a place. But as far as if I'm trying to take a unit apart, no, I don't want gloves on my hands.
All right. Well, we got hot takes and cold trends up next. What is opinion that you have that's controversial, but that you really do believe in this industry?
So I homeschool 10 kids that are in my community. I do that for free. I don't make any money doing it. And I have spent, since COVID, trying to force them into so many things, into going outside, into getting out of this virtual world that they're in. And I realized something a couple of years ago, and that's that I'm the one that's wrong. So they didn't ask to be in this virtual world. This is where they're coming up. And this is where every single industry in the world is headed, if they're not already there. For me, sending a child to any public school, trade school included, you guys. Yes, I'm about to bash on trade school right now. Sending a child or a young technician to any public school is going to be a disservice to them. They do not have the resources, they do not have the funding, and they absolutely don't have the materials to be able to teach a good curriculum. There are online trade schools now that are more comprehensive than in-person ones. And yes, everybody's going to say, touching the systems is so important. They get that at work in their apprenticeship. So the way that I see it is we don't have a need anymore for brick and mortar trade schools as long as we have brick and mortar HVAC shops. And that's my contribution.
All right. That is kind of controversial.
Yeah.
Cool trends. What's something people should stop spending time, money, energy, or effort on?
So there are a few of these. And I think in HVAC and plumbing specifically, it becomes absolutely ridiculous. And as a chief trainer, I'm going to say training. There is so much training out there that does not cost you thousands of dollars to train all your technicians. Spending that much money on training, like Tim said, you very well will have half of the people you're paying to train drop out as soon as they get good. You don't want to be dumping that money in the trash can. It's not worth it. Hiring a good trainer to work at your brick and mortar HVAC training facility or company is going to be twice the value that you could possibly get. And not even just that, but you can utilize the trainers that are online that offer their services. You can, a lot of the time you're paying less a month than you do for your car insurance to hire a trainer for your entire team. So that's what I say. I see people dump way too much into, I won't name them for your sake. But the certain people of the world who are charging a ridiculous amount of money to go to, say, the Bahamas or Tampa to go train in a house full of other people that are spending thousands of dollars to train just isn't worth it.
Like I said, folks, we keep it real here. I do think it's good to, it's hard to name names in this. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, people get good results either way. I see people in HVAC Facebook getting very intense about certain gurus. It's really gurus.
Yes.
Like that's why I don't position myself as a guru. I position myself as an inquisitive journalist.
Right.
And I really am. I'm a curious guy, and I actually don't know shit. So I love that.
And that's what I say. If somebody's labeling themselves a guru.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're talking about people that have been around the industry a while. Some of them 10, 20 years. And there's a certain, like, this is what I'll we can have these conversations where we disagree.
Saying names.
We can have this conversation where we disagree. That's okay. Yep. I will say this. There's a lot of people, especially contractors, that have been doing it a while. Let's say you're a 15-year contractor and you say, I hate these gurus, I hate these teachers, I hate these coaches. Yep. And then somebody says, okay, hey, please coach me. You know what I mean? Right. A lot of those people that say they hate them won't do that. They won't spend, they'll spend a half an hour. They'll spend an hour with somebody. Yep. But what we're talking about is like hours every month, maybe 10. Yeah. And so even if they're imperfect, it's nice to have accountability. It's nice to have some kind of coach. I've hired a coach, every couple of years for my business. I change them out because you have them too much. You've already told me all your shit, so I don't need to keep paying you. So I believe in changing.
I am one. I am an HVAC coach. That's what I do for SkillCat. I coach their companies and I coach their students, and I'm a trainer by trade. My thing is, if somebody has noticeably paid $40,000 just to appear on a TEDx, they probably don't have shit to say because they could have said it and people would have heard it on the internet. And on top of that, if somebody needs to fly you in a private jet that they rented to Tampa Bay to train you, to lock you in a house for 4 days to train you on HVAC, there's a reason for it.
I don't know who we're talking about right now, but I'm getting on board. I'm getting on board with Jennifer, okay? Whoever this person is a bitch. Fuck them. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea who we're talking about. So
all I'm saying is, if you're going to be a trainer, don't let that be your only gig, because then you have to rely on talking people to death and talking them out of their money. And if you're talking somebody out of their money, it just makes you a good salesperson. It doesn't make you a guru of any kind.
Yeah, I love talking about this for some reason. I don't know. The weird part is like, I've always enjoyed I've always enjoyed coaches and stuff like that, but I always see it. I always see the intense feedback that folks get. Let's wrap this up. Where can people check you out? What call to action would you like folks to have for the end of this?
Absolutely. So you guys can find me at jennifer@skillcatapp.com. You can email me directly. I talk to anybody who sends me a message. No big deal. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok at HVACHXJennifer. You can literally not miss me. I'm everywhere. And then I also write in the HVAC Tactical magazine and at HVACschool.com, HVACrschool.com. So you can find blogs and tech tips and stuff like that there. But the best place to find me is in my HVACX Coalition Facebook group. It's just HVACX Coalition. You'll know it when you see the pink logo. And in there, it's basically one of the only Facebook groups I've ever been in where you can ask an HVAC question and not get dogged to death. So I always tell people, if you have HVAC questions, come there and don't ask them elsewhere. But yeah, and my call to action is just be nice to each other, you guys. You know, if you want to be successful, being successful is different than talking people out of their money. It's very different. Being able to offer a service and then complete that service correctly is far different from just selling them. So my biggest call to action, and I do this on every single podcast that I'm on that's not my own, is just do your job. If you just do your job, the money will come. Don't go above and beyond for the money if you're not doing your job. And that's the biggest call to action I can possibly give you guys. That is your advice for the century.
Awesome. Thank you for being on. Thank you everyone for watching. This podcast is
Thank you, Tim.
put on by hookagency.com. Hook Agency all over social media. And please like
And
comment.
on my podcast, Unsolved Archives.
Let's go. I'm just trying to partner with Jennifer any way she'll let me right now. And then eventually she'll let me sponsor, because I don't care about spicy stuff.
Yeah.
If you guys are spicy on your guys' podcast. But anyways, I appreciate you all. Thank you everyone for watching. Bye, Jennifer. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.